Hey guys, Haas with Haas Games and Cards, and I hope you're all doing awesome because you all deserve it. What do we got going on today? You know what? There's been some fun YouTube videos popping around lately. Kind of, kind of showing up a little. What do we call it? I always want to say terrestrial festival, because that's what's currently out. But a little prismatic evolution drama and interesting takes, you know. And I love getting these videos from a consumer standpoint and from a shop standpoint. Because I mean, of course, I've done a little bit of both. I started out as a pretty big consumer, which led me to create a shop. So it's interesting because I like to watch these videos, get information on how people are feeling about things, but then also, you know, it kind of helps keep me, in line and knowing where the customers are at, how they're feeling about stuff, and if I need to adjust what I'm doing, you know, things like that. Because sometimes you just don't know, and it's good to look at it. But then sometimes things can be a little off, and their viewpoints too. Who knows? I think there's a good middle ground to everything, and a good compromise, right? So I guess before we dive too deep, thank you for everyone who's been watching this stuff. If you've been enjoying the content, please like, subscribe, do all the things that are free and easy to do to help us out. And I was on vacation, so I put a lot of product I had on the website out of stock, and we're getting a whole new stock of Terrestrial Festival booster boxes in as well. Those are coming in soon, and I have some left over that we're gonna post on the website again, restock it. So if you guys are looking for some Terrestrial Festival, easier and cheaper than English, that's for sure. English is gonna be a wild ride. It's gonna be a wild ride from a consumer standpoint and from a shop standpoint as well. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But guys, also our mystery product. Best way to help support our business as we continue to grow, continue to try to grow our allocations, our spend, whether it's with English or Japanese products. Always just looking to grow, and so we have a fun little mystery product where for $8, basically at worst, you can get a booster pack, which is just a little bit overpriced booster pack, or at best, you can get things like this PSA 10 Lugia, which is worth like $500 now. We got a lot of other stuff climbing up in price too. A 151 UPC. We got Surging Sparks booster boxes, which is super expensive. I think I have that picture here. Yep, boom. Surging Sparks booster boxes, which are way expensive now. Stellar Crown, can't order this from distro anymore, so that's going up. Twilight Masquerade, same thing with that, going up at the distro level. You can't buy the booster boxes, and so it's getting expensive. 151 ETBs, could never get those from distro, so there's that. Tons of ETBs, tins, Japanese 151 sealed product. Like I said, I need to upload some new pictures. I took new pictures of everything that's in it. But we also have Terrestrial Festival booster boxes, fun stuff like that, guys. Like I said, it just helps a lot. So, Dr. Applesauce recently made a video. A couple videos, actually. He's been going on a roll with these. And let's start off with Dr. Applesauce is a really cool guy. Really cool guy. Love watching his content. Super fun. A lot bigger than me, of course. He has like 40K-ish subscribers. I have nothing. I'm a nobody compared to him. I just kind of lurk in the shadows and sell Pokemon, right? Trying to build up that social media presence a little bit better. But he has great content. He streams super awesome and has good takes that are really centered on protecting the consumer, and I like that because I believe in happy consumers. I think it's ultra important. Very, very important. So we're going to talk about some things that he has kind of from his viewpoint and a consumer standpoint, because he claims to be a consumer. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to kind of address some questions that we need to ask about the whole situation in general, but then also kind of my stance and how I'm going to be maneuvering. That's going to be kind of the structure for tonight. But Dr. Applesauce is saying, hey, you know what? small businesses, Pokemon businesses in general, are scalping and way overcharging pre-orders for Prismatic Evolutions. And we'll kind of go over some pricing and details on that. I won't give my full take on that yet. We'll wait for that to get to my section. We'll wait for that to get to my section. But let's look at prices. And actually, prices just barely dropped down, barely any at all. But 103, TCGplayer. And I'll show you something else too. There's two very different markets for Prismatic Evolutions. It's kind of wild. TCGplayer, it looks like we're at 103. You can buy it kind of market average of 104. Of course, as the days go on, it's been going up and kind of up and down. Like you had some 103s and then a 112 randomly. But let's look at what's still left available. You only have one page left, okay? And this is important too, because demand is one thing, but then availability is another, right? So you have this big wall of 36 ETBs going for 103. Then after that, it's 104, 109, then 109 all the way up to 149. And this dude is selling 50 of them. That's interesting. Sorry about that. My kid is sick. Now I have a cough. I'm kind of worried about that, but not super worried. And I forgot my water. Might have to pause the video to get my water. Whoops. Anyways, Scalpish, definitely. So expensive. A $50 MSRP ETB going for 103, potentially all the way up to 150. And I don't know if I don't even know the name of that card house, but looks like they're well established with TCGplayer. They got 10K sales, so they must be getting some pre-orders and guaranteed pre-orders. I'd watch out because I know what my allocations are and what my local LGS allocations are. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I am a online Pokemon business. I'm an LLC. I have distributors, all that stuff. I'm not as big as Brian with Poke-Annie, but we're working our way through the trenches. We have a slower start, and that's a video for a different time. But so yeah, I just really hope these pre-orders don't get canceled if you do buy them for that much, because that'd suck. A lot of people locally in my town did pre-orders without knowing their allocations, and they've had to cancel a ton. It's making my local populace super mad. With how much I got cut for Surging Sparks, I'm like, I'm not even going to try to do pre-orders until I 100% know my allocations. I didn't have to cut anything for Surging Sparks. I got lucky with that. But I am going to definitely play it safe. I know one wave of my allocation numbers, and we'll talk about that later. But I would just won't even try to pre-order anything out to people without having those numbers first, because that's just silly. So we go to the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box, and this is where things get so crazy. So crazy. $394. Holy hell. And this is only for one, not even a case or two. This is for one. Market price $398. We have some stuff going all over the place. There's one that popped up for $299, immediately sold. I'm sure $500 right there. Wow. So this is hopping all over the place. And look at this, only one page, very small. $394, only a handful of those, and then we dump into $400, $530, $549. And I actually did look up some of these companies. They are definitely Pokemon companies, and obviously they've been established on TCGplayer for some time with their amount of sales. They are some companies. They are selling it for almost $400, and that's crazy, because that means they camped the Pokemon Center website, got as much as they could, and now they're dumping it on here. I don't know if I should be impressed or just, I don't know. That's just crazy. I have some coming in that I ordered specifically for me with no intention to resell them. It's really hard looking at that to be like, oh, maybe. I mean, yeah, I'm tempted to resell them, but I just feel disgusting. That's interesting. I shouldn't even be talking about my opinion yet. Some of this is fresh too. Some of this is kind of fresh info for me because I didn't know they hit these prices on TCGplayer yet. And so some of this is kind of a surprise and is kind of shaping how this video is going to turn out as well. Because in no world could I ever imagine that these would sell this much. It makes me wonder what it will be like after release when there's some more hype. They're not pre-orderable. It's just like live stock with whatever people guarantee. And if the Pokemon Center doesn't do a restock, and I mean a massive restock, where's that going to go? We're going to keep an eye out. We're going to keep an eye out on that market because that is crazy. So then we head over to the eBay market, and this is where things dramatically change. If you're looking for a cheaper, and again, you got to know where you're buying from and trust the source. You don't want to get it canceled. I guess one thing maybe with these TCGplayer guys, if they have been doing it for a long time, maybe it's guaranteed, but is that worth such a huge markup? I don't think so. Prismatic Evolution Pokemon Center ETB exclusive, boom, 180. So I mean, it looks like you can get them for about 180, way cheaper than TCGplayer. The market difference between those two is so crazy, guys. If it's singles or sealed product, look at both, but then also make sure it's coming from good sellers too. eBay's kind of the Wild West a little bit. Little protection, but still kind of the Wild West. So now we look at normal ETBs. You got one for 94. These are Pokemon Center exclusive. Looks like an 86. So at least on eBay. And again, I don't know how these people know they're getting these allocations because a lot of these were probably pre-sold pretty early too. I mean, earlier ones for sure, but looks like up to 90 in the 70s, kind of that range for ETBs. So that's a little bit better. For sure. The market is all over the place on this. Expect cancels because a lot of people, like I know a lot of my local other people that sell Pokemon that I know, that I personally know, they're canceling some of their orders, and I'm hoping it's just because they mismanaged their allocations or they just were like, oh crap, usually I'm allocated this, but I made some pre-orders and this is why I didn't do that. I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm gonna wait. I'll hold the line. I really hope they don't do it to where they're canceling orders and then selling it for way more than what they should be. I guess I'll find out I have a local card show that I'm doing. We'll see what they bring. Not what they bring. I mean, just like stores because it's a lot of different stores going to these vending shows. I do probably 2 or 3 of them a month. So it'll be interesting to see what all the stores do that come to it. So the standpoint of Dr. Applesauce in his movies, or in his video about scalping Prismatic Evolutions, and that stores are scalping Prismatic Evolutions. So he brings up a point that stores should not pre-order things at whatever current market is. ETBs should not be going for $100. And stores should not, and I think he wishes that there was a rule, they should not charge over MSRP, and there should be probably some kind of rule to stop them from doing that, whether it's through Pokemon Company in general or what, or the distros. I have kind of twisted views on that. Should an ETB be sold for $100? I don't think so. Should it be can it or should it be sold for above MSRP? I think situationally through a store, possibly. Up to $100, no. I think that's a little excessive. But I feel like if you're going to put some hard, fast rules on that supports big box stores over your local LGS. And local LGS is what used to carry the whole hobby in the first place, you know? And if you're not down to support your local LGS, that's just sad, especially for the good stores out there. You know, they deserve it. They've been carrying the hobby for years. Big box stores kind of finally realize, oh, we can make these deals with Pokemon well, one thing is between the difference between LGS and big box stores for this set is LGS is barely going to get any quantities, barely going to get anything at all. I know my quantities are super small. For my first distro, super small. I won't find out for my other distro until right before release. I'll probably get more from them than from my other distro, but I'm not going to pre-order anything until I know from both, or at least I'll sell whatever I know from the one, and then if I can do more, I'll do more. But I feel like that supports the big box stores and is going to kind of screw over the little guys. The little guys have kind of been getting screwed over for more hype sets. Surging Sparks kind of kicked it off for Scarlet and Violet. Nobody got as much as what they wanted. Stores were selling that above MSRP. Luckily, the stores in my area, I think they kept it relatively fair, though, to kind of match it. They didn't get as much as what they could have. And you know what's interesting about some of these other big box companies, too, is they don't sell it at MSRP. MSRP for a booster bundle is like, what, 26 bucks? You know, Walmart does not sell them for 26 bucks. It's more like 28 to 30. GameStop sells them 30 and above, but you have to buy their membership. And then it's still like at 30. And so with GameStop, if you have to pay that yearly membership and then on top of that still pay the above MSRP price, I think, I mean, and obviously that's not super pumped up, but they have an advantage where small stores don't. Local LGS does not get restocks on these newer sets at all. I don't. I know Surging Sparks, as soon as that came into play, I got my allocations for it, and then that was it. Never been able to get restocks of it. Never been able to get restocks of it at all. Can't make an order. That doesn't exist at the distro level, where we kind of have to compete with Walmarts and GameStops. They get consistent stock. They always can get more. And so that's where they have an advantage. And of course they're going to sell close to MSRP. They're still above MSRP and you still have to pay memberships. Or, you know, Walmart did the Black Friday thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to do some Pokemon deals way below MSRP. But you have to pay for our yearly membership to get early access to even have a chance at it. Because everything was sold out before Black Friday. So that's one thing you got to think about. Is you have to pay membership. Sam's Club, Scene Skybox, have to have a membership. Costco tins and 151 UPCs when they came by, have to have a membership. Still got scalped up so fast. So, I mean, I would say healthily for an LGS that only has one chance to sell the small amount of allocations they can get, I think you can be slightly above MSRP. I think you can be slightly above. At like 100 plus, I don't think so, but I think you can still be slightly above, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. But Dr. Applesauce and some of his viewpoints were pretty much aligning with stores should not sell at what market is. And again, if they could get regular stock, I know for me, if I get regular stock, I'd just sell at MSRP all day, every day. Do I ever get to like crazy scalpish prices? Obviously not. Definitely not. But you demand and market pricing do have a factor. Some of it we'll get into because distros don't just always sell things at distro price either. That's not how that works at all. And I don't think he understands that. I don't think he's had to live that part of it, so he may not know. But market does demand a little bit of pricing, and it's not just in the trading card space where market will demand or change prices, you know, with demand and things like that. I mean, we had a year, I think it was 2, 3 years ago, in my area, my state, where flooding was going to be very prevalent, and everybody and their mother wanted a sump pump, and the sump pump prices got ridiculous, super crazy, like 4 to 5 times the amount of a normal sump pump, and all of a sudden Home Depot is full of them in their stores, just absolutely full of them, when they usually don't even care to carry them, and they marked them up like crazy. And people were buying them because there was a need and market demand for it. People bought it. Did it make it right? Yes, no, maybe so. Don't know. But market does drive some pricing things that stores have to do, especially when you don't get regular stock. Has to happen for a small store to survive. Or, they have to pay employees. They have a storefront and rental space. At least in my state, to have a store and business pricing per square foot to rent like a place to have your shop at, not cheap. So expensive here. So expensive. So that's a couple things to think about. And then one point he brought up is that at release, stock is going to be easy to find. It's not going to be a big deal. You're going to have easy access to this, is one of the points he made. And he brought up 151. He was like, basically, the stock of it will be easy to find, like 151 upon release. And there's going to be so many reprints that's going to tank the prices. Reprints will destroy the prices. Couple things to think about with that. I don't know how it was in every state. I know in my state, on the LGS level, 151 being a specialty set, every store I went to, maybe, just maybe, got a booster bundle case of 151 and a handful of ETBs. All my local stores did not have a lot. And this was before I had an online shop. So this was just purely from a consumer. So I jumped around from store to store, just trying to buy what I could, because I was out of Pokemon since 3rd grade. 151 came out, and I'm like, oh, I gotta rip it, gotta try it. And it just did not exist. It didn't exist at all. It was so hard to find. And then anything that hit Walmart, it got bought up immediately. Immediately. It was just gone. And then, like I said, restocks, they would happen at the big box stores, but none of my local stores could get restocks of it. And if they did, they had to pay different pricing. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. But, when a set first comes out, distro has one price for it. But then when a set gets reprinted, or, they have it come back or restock it, whatever it is, it's not at the original distro price. Well, we might dive into that a little bit more, but it is not at the original distro price. And I guess actually, we will jump into that right now. Recently, probably a handful of months ago, my distro had booster bundles of 151 that got restocked. They're like, hey, we're going to put this in. You guys can buy it. You've been waiting for it for such a long time. Let's go. Oh, hi, kitty. I don't think so. You always claw me. This cat likes to claw the heck out of me while we... She's not a good cuddler. It's not a great relationship. I'm just going to very gently relocate you. Okay. So I got excited. I'm like, oh, 151 stock. I have not seen that happen before. And they ended up being $45 a booster bundle. And at the time, market, second party, third party, whatever you want to call it, pricing ended up being, I think it was at 48 a booster bundle. So it's like you'd make $3. $3 per booster bundle. Wasn't even worth doing. Is it now? Yeah, because it's probably above 50 right now. Still not worth it. Once you do shipping and taxes and fees and all that stuff, wasn't worth it. So restocks don't happen the way you guys think they happen. A lot of the time there's purchasing limits, and it is expensive, more expensive. And another example of this is Paldea Evolved. Recently, Paldea Evolved had a reprint or restock, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter to me. More of it showed up. More of it showed up. So basically, the prices on that at the time for the booster box. Well, let's rewind back to 151. I'm sorry. I don't mean to jump ahead. So 151, over time, LGSs can't get it. They boost up the price on it, but then Walmarts can magically sell it for 28 to 30 bucks when they get it in stock for a booster bundle. They get ETBs on a regular basis that they sell right at MSRP or slightly above. But small stores can't get it. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. I feel like if you don't want LGSs to mark up prices, give them regular stock. If they can just keep on selling and pumping, then, they would probably be right on point with MSRP on a popular set. And saying reprints are going to tank prices, no. Because booster bundles of 151 have been, they show up at Best Buys and GameStop all the time, and they're still third-party $50 a bundle because people scalp them. And so that's the thing is, like, whether you get it cheaper at a big box store or at an LGS, people are still going to scalp them. So it doesn't matter if you think your LGS is too high or whatever else. They're all going to get bought up because it's cheaper, and then they get scalped anyways. So kind of poopy for sure. And so yeah, 151 hasn't been affected by reprints whatsoever. Paldea Evolved had a pretty sizable reprint, and I sold some cases of it. Very cool. But again, coming from distro, when it first happened, I think the booster boxes were floating around. I don't remember the exact price. It was probably 120, trailed up to like 140, almost 150, before the stock started hitting everywhere, and everyone had access to it, because not everybody had access to it. So basically, with that, I think the prices per box were about 120, and so you'd maybe make $10 to $20 depending on what point you had access to that stock. And what ended up happening is it dips down maybe to like 130-ish and then bounces back up. I think it's higher than it's ever been now, if I remember correctly. Let's take a look. Let's take a look real quick. Sorry, I should have had this window up. Paldea Evolved Booster Box. Where's TCGplayer? Because if I remember correctly, it is higher than it's ever been now. Okay, yeah. So the reprint came along, right? And it kind of dented things down to the 130s, like I was talking about, where before it was about 145-ish. Reprint happens, and now it's 149 at the highest point it's ever been, trailing up to 150. How close are we to 150? Less than a page away. So, yeah. I mean, so again, you bought it at 120 as a card store, maybe sold it for 130-ish, unless you held on to it and for when it bounced back up to this 149. But guys, this is proving that reprints don't tank prices. It might bring it down slightly, but they always go back up and then back up even higher than where it started. So, not always the case. Don't listen to that advice because it's not always right. Reprints, they can impact the market, but not by much, and it ends up going up higher. So, be aware of that. Be cognizant of that. This is how it works. That's just how it works. And an interesting thing, too, that Dr. Applesauce has talked about in the past is the Van Gogh Pikachu. Dr. Applesauce made a handful of videos being like, don't FOMO, don't FOMO, don't buy into these prices. Oh my gosh, don't do it. Because they came out with several print runs. Oh, it's going to get tanked and it's going to stay tanked, and the value of this thing is going to suck because there's going to be so many of them. And there's a ton in a PSA 10. There are so many. But if I remember correctly, they're selling about 450 to 500-ish right now in a PSA 10, even though there's a lot of them. Because, guys, again, demand is king. Demand is king, and that's where we end up going. And so if you can't sell at market, or a store's not allowed to sell at market, when are they allowed to? Is it, 1 year after the set releases? Or what? Because Surging Sparks is well above market, and that's not even LGS's driving up that price. I'd say it's more Reprint shippers and scalpers driving up that price for sure. But that set's not even close to a year. It's only been a month, 2 months, something like that. And that price is already like well over $200 a box. So for a store that can't get any stock of them, and they only pretty much get their pre-release their allocations for pre-orders, when is it okay for them to protect themselves and try to stay in business? Try not to hurt too bad, but still keep the price fair. But market determines that a little bit. It's not fun to hear, especially when things were really cheap with Scarlet and Violet earlier on, including Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved was super cheap. But if you're already having to pay an inflated price to get Paldea Evolved, and you're not selling it at market, you're killing your business. You're going to kill your business. And obviously nobody's doing that. And whoever does buy it ends up, I'd say, again, ripping shippers and scalpers, but yeah, I mean, nobody wants to sell above MSRP. I don't think a good store that respects themselves and everything, and are good stores and honest, I don't think they want to sell above MSRP. But at what point do you say, hey, you know what? I do have to go above market price, or I have to do market price because market is where it is realistically selling. I can't get a lot of stock of it. What I do have is my small amount. I have one chance to sell it, or I do get a little bit more, but it's at an inflated price. You kind of have to, depending on the situation. And it sucks because like I said, if people were getting regular stock at normal distro prices, I'd be selling, everybody would be selling at MSRP all day, every day. I don't think that that's a very fair thing. And there's going to be some points we talk about further down. But the only thing, and we have to remember too, there's so much to reprint with the Scarlet and Violet era. I mean, Paldea Evolved just got a reprint. Didn't do anything. In fact, it made it worse, if anything. So Paldea Evolved just got a reprint, bounces right back up. We still need reprints for Paradox Rift. You can't get a distro anymore, so technically need a reprint for that. Stellar Crown, and this is a newer set, and this is the set that nobody wanted. People were like, oh, we don't like this set. And I called this. I made a video not too long ago saying, hey guys, these prices are going up. And a lot of these sets, before they went out, you could only buy one case at a time from distro, and the prices were elevated on top of that. So you can even play the buy as much product as you can and sell it at a fair price game. It was literally, hey, distro's going to charge you more for it, and on top of that, you can only buy a case. So, like, what are you supposed to do with that? What are you supposed to do with that if you just sell it at MSRP? That's, again, not fair. And it's not even at MSRP for market right now anyways, so. But it's still higher, and you can only get one case at a time. So that's frustrating and doesn't really make sense. So, anyways, for all these sets, Paradox, you can't get a distro anymore. Temporal Forces, I'd have to look it up. I think that's gone now. Twilight Masquerade is gone. Surging Sparks is gone. Paldea Evolved, I think, is on its way out. I don't remember if it's limited yet. It probably is. Scarlet and Violet base set is starting to tank out and go up in price as well. Every Scarlet and Violet era is either out or has gone up in price and is limited. So, again, what are you supposed to do? And when is Pokemon going to have time to reprint all that stuff? That's a lot of sets. That's a lot of sets, including these new sets coming out right now. And they still have the Gym Partner set coming out. They still have Team Rocket. So you're going to tell me, with the demand on these new sets that get sold out completely before, sold out or scalped or whatever it is, that get sold out completely on the LGS level at pre-orders, when is that supposed to happen? When are they going to have enough time to reprint all those sets and print enough of it to make a big dent? To make a big enough dent? No, not going to happen. You might get a little trickle here and there, but obviously, like with this, not enough to make a big enough difference. The only thing that I have seen that's gone printed a ton, that for whatever reason they have time to do, that has made an impact. Oh, Paldea Fates too. I forgot about that. Can't get Paldea Fates at distro anymore, and that's been going up too. So that's another set right there. But anyways, the only set I've seen them really print a ton of that actually has been easy to get, if you catch Sam's Club on the right day, and if you have a membership, gotta have a membership too. That's, again, like, oh yeah, great deal, gotta have a membership, and then it gets scalped because there's no buying limits, and then blah 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 blah. But Sea and Sky boxes, there was a whole pallet of them over the weekend at my Sam's Club. I bought 2 because I want to rip some. Not buying a billion so I can flip it. Not what I'm doing. The pallet lasted for a day. At the end of the day, one of the Facebook Pokemon pages was like, oh, well, they're gone. That has been printed a ton. I think that kept the packs relatively lowish, like in the 5-ish range. But again, after a wave of that comes out, it creeps back up. The card prices in singles creep back up. So, I mean, that might be one small exception, but this might be like some of the last waves. It's a Sword and Shield set. It may not even matter soon. So, there's that too. So, Dr. Applesauce, in his video, made a very interesting comment. And I think he was more referring to when stores would sell things super, super low. There's a time period where that would happen. And even the beginning Scarlet and Violet sets all the way up to Paldea Evolved and even Twilight Masquerade. We'll talk about that here in a second too. He says, if you sell cheap, it's not my problem. Or if you have to sell cheap. And he talks about how you should have enough capital to make things work and all that stuff, right? And that to me kind of sounds like, hey, consumers and myself as a consumer, self-claimed consumer, that it's okay to take advantage of stores when they're down and out, right? Because why does the store have to sell things for super cheap? Well, I think Scarlet and Violet's a good example of this. Nobody wanted it. Nobody liked it. Nobody liked the crowns above the Pokemon's heads. Paldea Evolved did not start out as a $150 booster box. That's not how that happened. It took a long time to get traction. You could get Magikarp for like $35. When I first got back into Pokemon around 151, that Magikarp card was only $35. If I had known how Pokemon kind of works now, because I had no idea. I haven't been in the Pokemon game for a long time till I made my business. I could have gotten that Magikarp for like $35, and I wish I would have bought a handful of them. The print quality was pretty rough in Paldea Evolved too, so it's hard to find a super good minty one. But stores selling low, there's a multiple fold thing to that. There wasn't a lot of demand, but distro will still say, hey, you have to buy stuff. And not only do you have to buy stuff, you have to buy a lot of stuff. You have to keep buying a lot of stuff. Even if it's the stuff that people don't want, you have to buy it. And you can't say no to that. And you kind of had to keep buying things until a set comes out that people actually wanted. But even then, again, Paldea Evolved comes out, nobody wanted it. So you're struggling. You get Paradox Rift, nobody wanted that set. 151 came out and exploded, and there wasn't enough stock. So you're struggling throughout the entire Scarlet and Violet era, and some of Sword and Shield too during those slower times when things were just not really moving. But to keep your business going, you have to, and to stay competitive, because everybody competes for prices, whether it's locally or online. If you're being beaten by like a buck, you're not going to sell your stuff during that time. And so everybody's kind of racing to the bottom. And yeah, there should be some capital stuff you're set up with to help protect you from that. But how realistic is that? If you're being forced to buy stuff and then just so you can get good allocations on future sets, which apparently doesn't even matter for these specialty sets because you can have a great spend and still not get very much of anything. Yeah, this is rough. And so at that point, it was a great time for consumers, for sure. They were getting stuff cheap. They loved it. Pretty much ripped to your heart's content, right? Easy to find stock all the time. And I mean, again, I feel like if you've had a local store that's been treating you good and being good to you, they're going to love you on the downs, and you kind of need to love them on the ups a little bit, especially since they can't get product. But if they've been hosting tournaments and you enjoy the time there, because I mean, it's not free to have you sit there and, they have overhead and staff and other things like that. Like Pokemon doesn't, they'll give them a little bit of incentive to have tournaments and stuff like that, and they'll make you pay a little bit to get into the tournament. But do you really think that's enough to pay the bills and everything else? Absolutely not. Definitely not. And so, man, that's just a weird viewpoint, I think. And as long as your store's not being super scalpish, but needs to sell a little bit higher than MSRP because they only got 10 ETBs and they need to survive, then yeah, I think that's fair. Especially if they've been treating you good for a minute. What's wrong with support? I mean, everybody always says support local business. I'm going to support my store. I always support my store. They're so great. But then the minute that something actually turns into their favor and actually is something that's better that supports them, people want to turn, all of a sudden they're the enemy. I don't think so. And again, it's not even them with that choice. They're getting, again, maybe a case of ETBs. You really think that's going to carry them to March, April, May, all that time? You think that extra like $5,000 makes a difference? It doesn't. It doesn't when it comes to cost of your stuff. And I'm in a good position because I do things to order. I don't really, I'll pre-order all my allocations I know I'm going to get. I do things to order. I don't carry a huge stock on hand. I just kind of get it ordered up cheaper because I don't have overhead. I have my house. I have my full-time career still. I'm still doing crazy stuff with my full-time career, which sucks because then I'm burning the candle at both ends, and that means my social media presence sucks because I don't have time for it. There's a lot of stuff I don't have time for, and it really impedes growth, and that's something I personally need to work on. But yeah, I think a store would be happy, especially on a new set like this, to keep at MSRP if they could get regular stock, but they can't get regular stock, guys. Be realistic. Be realistic about this. But if you can't get regular stock, what are you going to do? Then his videos had some pretty interesting comments too. Pretty interesting comments that were kind of more supporting his store in a way. One of the comments, and sorry, I gotta read it. I wrote it down over here, so I gotta read it over here. I'm not looking at you guys, so I apologize. But one of the interesting comments was, as a store owner, it is my problem when the market is under MSRP. Fact, because that means demand's low. That means stuff's not selling. That means you have to liquidate it to even try to break even. But then the other half of it was, as a store owner, it is not my problem when market is over MSRP. Kind of a harsh way to put it, but again, I think it boils down to a consumer's happy when the prices are low, but then a consumer's not happy after being treated well for a while, when their store finally has an opportunity to kind of come out on top. But again, they're not, because you don't have enough stock to come out on top. If you could if you could contact your distro any point in time, be like, I just sold 10 ETBs, I need 10 more. Cool. If it was straightforward like that, then yeah, that'd be great. That'd be the life. But it's not. There's nothing. You can almost get nothing at distro right now. Almost everything's sold out or limited or jacked up in price because the prices don't stay the same. What was the other comment? Let's see. And then another comment. Oh, you know what? There was, again, Dr. Applesauce sitting there saying, hey, you know what? Nobody's forcing these stores to dump product at a loss. You know what? Actually, what does cause stores to dump things at a loss is market and demand. The market price of an item and demand. If the market price of a booster box is lower than even distro prices, which is funny because, again, at the beginning of his viewpoint is stores should never sell or pre-order things above MSRP, and they should keep it at MSRP. Which is funny because you can't sell it at MSRP or below MSRP if the market is like, no, that booster box is $70. If the market says that booster box is $70, even though you're getting it for, $80 at 80 to 90 to whatever, nobody gets it for 80. They're not $80, but it's more like 90-ish. If you're doing 90-ish at distro, but the market says that they're $70 a box, then no. But again, that's where it hurts the store, because the market says, hey, this is what the box is at. But then he's not okay with market saying, hey, you know what? This is probably not the fun answer for a consumer, but the market is right here. Stores don't determine what the market is, but third-party buyers, scalpers, and everything else, and rip and shippers do determine what market price is, and stores have to adjust, whether it's negatively affecting them and they have to go lower, or whether the demand is higher and they have to go higher. Because if demand is higher, you're not getting stock. So again, there's no winning for a store, because if it's lower, you have too much and you're not doing enough sales, or if the market price is higher, the demand is too high, you're not getting stock. You're selling it for more, but you're not selling enough to make that more matter. So where's that middle line? Well, right now it doesn't exist. And a lot of it has to do with distros not being fair and not keeping LGS as well stocked, where big box stores do get to stay well stocked. And that's rough. That's very rough. And I think the other part of that quote, sorry, I totally forgot. The other half of that quote was, nobody is forcing people to pay higher prices. And I would agree with that. We jump back over here to TCGplayer, where we have almost a $400 Prismatic Pokemon Center exclusive ETB for, like I said, $400. Nobody's forcing that. You know what? If people would just be like, hey, ditch the FOMO, $400 is not okay. Maybe $100 for a Pokemon Center ETB. Sure. I've bought a handful at $100, knowing that they're going to go much higher in the future. But, again, if people would just not buy it, then they'd be forced to sell it lower, because these people would get so much stock. They'd buy and buy and buy, because right now they know it's a free paycheck. They get the in, they buy it, and then they're just like, sweet, now I can immediately flip it for an instant profit. I don't have to sit on it. I don't have to wait for it to accrue value. It's just an immediate gain. People keep buying it at this. Stop. stop buying it, these prices will go down. That doesn't make sense why you guys, why people in general, including stores, because I'm sure stores are still buying stuff at a higher price and then somebody flips it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, like it's way more expensive third party anyways. And to help the buffer of pricing, again, if stores could stay well stocked consistently through their distros, but distros are not doing the best of that, and maybe cut down on what the big box stores can do, then I'm sure this would kind of die down a little bit. But again, market is picking, people are picking what this price is going to be. This isn't a store's fault. A store doesn't even get Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes. So who's picking the market? It's the people. And stores have to do whatever they can do because they don't get enough stock. Do I agree? Again, do I agree with $100 ETBs for this set even before release? No. No, I do not. Am I going to demonize a store for doing a $100 ETB? No, I'm not going to. Because they're maybe getting 10 of them. And that is not going to carry them to the next set. They're not going to get a restock. And people are paying that anyways. Like, you can complain about it all you want, but if people keep buying it, that's not a store's fault. That's not a store's fault. And people keep going to TCGplayer and flipping it for ridiculous prices. So, yeah, no. No. So, here's some questions we got to ask. I don't know why. This video, I'm kind of like realizing things as I'm going. You know, I thought I had a pretty clear path of how I wanted to take the video, and I keep thinking about it, and I keep thinking about, you know what, even though I don't have the overhead, it's still a rough spot because I love selling and I love just building up more and more and doing it at a fair price. I always try to get some of the best local pricing for my local peeps as I can. And even on my website, I try to keep prices as good as I can. But yeah, even like just reviewing the information and kind of, I come to realize it even more. And I'm just like, you know, this is really stacked against the LGS. You know, distros are stacked against the LGS. Big box stores get such an extreme advantage. It's rough. It's rough. Even for me who doesn't have the obligation. I mean, I have a full-time career and I burn things at both ends, and I have a family too on top of that. So I'm basically no downtime. But I get to survive these things where if stock is lower, I get to survive. But do I get to grow the way I want to grow or dedicate the time I want to? No. But with how the market is right now and how allocation space works, it's better for me to keep my full-time position right now on top of this, because I'm going to sell out my pre-orders in 5 minutes because I'm not getting that much. I'm going to have to sell out in 5 minutes, and then that'll be it till the next set comes out. And then hopefully an older set comes into stock, but that is also going to be inflated in price and not at its original distro price, and I will only be able to get maybe one case in an order. So yeah, guys, I don't think it's as clear cut and straightforward as what you guys think, and it's really not built to be in a store's favor during this point in time. So there's some questions we need to ask ourselves. I think there's about 2 or 3 questions we need to ask ourselves. Yeah, about 2 or 3 questions. One thing to think about too is Dr. Applesauce is bringing up all this stuff. And again, I love the guy. Such a good, positive guy. His intros are like so heartfelt and warming. Like, I love him. I love him. Is Dr. Applesauce only a consumer? Because he's like, I am doing this from a consumer standpoint. It's like, okay, are you only a consumer? And you know what? I don't think he's only a consumer. And there's a couple of things. For one, he has his full-time, or I don't know if it's full-time or not, but he has his YouTube channel that makes a little, I don't know how much YouTube makes. I don't make money on YouTube, so I have no idea. Nobody even watches my YouTube. It's so small. It's so small. But if you do, thank you. Appreciate it. Definitely like and subscribe. Maybe share the video. So, anyways, as a consumer, I think when you have a business in Pokemon, you're not just a consumer. You're not just a consumer, whether that's creating content on YouTube or streaming. So that brings me to my other point. I used to be a very avid streamer. I used to stream a ton. On Whatnot, I used to stream a lot because that's how I kind of first build up my sales data so I could get distros when I created my LLC and other things like that. But you know what? When you're a big YouTube channel or a bigger YouTube channel, Dr. Applesauce, again, I think he has like 40K. When you have some influence, you end up having people that come over to whatever your streaming platform is, and you make money that way. You make money, and Dr. Applesauce definitely sells things and makes money. 41 or 4,114 sales. So over 4,000 sales of what I would assume would be Pokemon product. Now, I do know that he probably sells things at a pretty fair price. I don't watch his stream, so I'm not sure what his pricing is like. But one thing that I've learned about streams is people will gladly pay well over market for the most part. And a stream may say, yeah, we're doing $1 packs, we're doing $2, whatever. We're doing like some $1 packs and some giveaways. And a lot of streams do some good giveaways. I bet he does a ton of giveaways and gives away some good free stuff for sure. But as I watch streams, if you're especially a social media influencer, a lot of the time they'll put up $1 pack, but it gets bid up to like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 bucks, especially on a newer set or a crazy or high demand set. So if you have supporters and they're bidding up that stuff, well, for one, that's market. it's streaming market is what I'll call it. But that kind of sets in its own way a market price that he doesn't control, but other people are controlling that for him. And kind of like with our current market with TCGplayer and eBay and things that do set market prices and demand, out of an LGS's hands for sure. And so that's one thing that I kind of think is he streams, he sets a price, and it may be low and super generous, but if they're able to bid it up, which I don't know if he does bids or not, then of course, especially since they're a fan of his things like that, they're going to bid it up well above market. So does Dr. Applesauce benefit from things that are at market price or above? Definitely. Does that make him solely only a consumer? Nope, it doesn't. It does not. And I get that there's streaming fees. I know all about streaming fees because I used to stream a ton. On Drip specifically, I streamed a little bit on Drip, but that was when I was kind of falling out of streaming. But one of the reasons why I switched to Drip is because the percentages for commission on Drip were so much lower than Whatnot. So, yeah, there's that. I mean, if you're selling a booster pack for, again, if his fans are bidding it up to pretty high amounts, let's see, what was I looking up? Oh yeah, 151 Japanese booster box. The fees are not that ridiculous. Not that ridiculous. For drip, they're not that bad. So here's an interesting thing too. And again, I get it. There's shipping costs and fees and stuff, but his booster boxes for Japanese is 96, where they're regularly going for 90 a box. So yeah, 90 a box. He is over, of course, a little bit over market on that. I get it, fees, but just saying, you are a little bit above market. And obviously, MSRP for Japanese 151 booster box is not $96. So you're a consumer selling at higher than MSRP, but you're not a consumer because you're selling. So I just thought it was interesting. And a lot of, and I'm taking this example to the extreme, so don't dig too seriously into it, but a lot of people in the hobby, of course, got to offset costs, so I get it. I get it, but I think for him, he's not just a consumer. I don't think that's fair. And it's not free. It's $96. I just have money from one of my last streams on drip that I never pulled back, that I never got to myself or gave to myself. I need to withdraw that someday. So, and I don't know why I'm bringing this one up. I just thought it was a funny comment. He says he makes other Pokemon channels famous, which is great and funny. I hope mine gets a little bit more famous, maybe, because I need the views. So why not? Does he make other channels famous? I don't think so. I mean, the people that may somewhat benefit from it are much smaller, and anybody else who mentions them, I mean, there's so many bigger Poketubers, even than him, that probably have a lot more influence. I don't think he makes their careers, but it's very flattering to think that of himself, I'm sure. Where I'm small, my impact is negligible. Just is what it is. So, a real question then. When is it okay to sell at market price? We kind of brought this up earlier. When does a store get to sell things at market price or above market? You know, because obviously he says you can't pre-release, you can't, or for pre-orders, you can't. And in general, he is saying that they should at MSRP and keep at MSRP. But again, kind of going back to my point, I don't think stores want to sell above MSRP. I don't think stores are evil. I don't think they want to sell above MSRP and do this crazy market manipulation stuff. But then also, again, in previous points that we brought up, distro does not always sell at distro price. A lot of the time, especially on a restock, they up the price to almost where market is. Distros will sell at almost market, guys. I don't think you realize that. But distros on a restock will sell almost at market. So you got to remember that. They will limit the stock to where you can't get much of it anyways. And then on a new set, especially these high demand sets, whether it's Surging Sparks or Prismatic, your allocations are going to be small. They're going to be very small. So again, market does determine things, but it does not save the store. A store may look like it's doing great because it gets to sell Prismatic Evolutions at a pretty hefty price, but it's not going to save them. It's not going to save them. They don't sell enough quantity. So that's rough. That's really, really rough. I do think $100 in ETB is too much, by the way. I do think it's too much. I'm just saying I get why stores are doing it, but then it also is going to create some bad blood. So is it worth doing it? Probably not. But I understand where they're coming from and why they have to with their low stock. And then, of course, if a restock does happen, which it pretty much didn't except for that one time with 151, it pretty much just gets restocked at big box stores, and they're even a little bit over MSRP. And you just don't get enough. I mean, selling this stuff, because margins are so thin anyways, is a volume game. And if you don't get to play that volume game, if you're excluded from the volume game, which most local LGS are, you're kind of screwed. You're just kind of screwed. So where am I at? So far, with my allocations, and like I said, I had some local people that already outdid their allocations. This is why I be very, very precise, and my pre-orders are coming out probably a week or two before, so I know every single number because I'm going to play it safe. But so far, with my one distro, I am getting a case of each product. That's nothing. If you think me selling at MSRP is going to keep my business afloat and float me through the following months until the next set, which I'm also going to have trouble getting, so that way I can then not float through the next few months after that to then the Team Rocket set, where again I will not get enough allocations to make that survivable as well. If I was a store, a physical store, that is, then you guys don't really support local stores. That's what it boils down to. You don't support your local online stores, and you don't support your local stores, because every local store is going to have this same struggle. This whole 2025 year has such crazy sets coming out with such demand that it is not going to be sustainable for the stores. They're not going to sell enough. And so for you to only support when things are low and then not be happy when things are slightly higher, because I think online it's easier for these third-party scalpers to and rip and shippers to sell this for a crazy amount. I think most local stores, from what I've seen, especially after surging sparks, kept it very fair. Slightly above market, but not a ton. And I think that's what's going to happen with ETBs as well. And I'll get into what I'm going to do here in a minute. But I feel like they're going to keep it fair. They have to. They have to keep a good name. But I also think that as a collective, if people in the hobby really are banding together and caring about the hobby as a whole, especially LGS stores, which host your tournaments and stuff like that, then they might need a little push. They might need a little help. Stores only get one shot to sell this stuff, and that's their allocations. After that, I'm not going to get Prismatic anymore. And to be honest, I'm going to collect this set in Japanese, personally. Japanese is more readily available, it's cheaper, better hit rates. They have guaranteed hit rates in their booster boxes, where in English, it's the Wild West. We don't even know fully what Master Balls we're all going to get. There's speculation that the Umbreon Master Ball might not even exist. So with these unknown English hit rates, like, I'm just going to get in Japanese. It looks more vibrant and better on a Japanese card anyways. Sometimes I like to chase the bigger hits in a big set because it's fun, but no, I'm not going to open this stuff very much. Maybe one of my Pokemon Center ETBs I was able to secure, but that's it. That's really it. I'm not going to mess around too much with this set. So you only have one chance to sell it. Other stores only get one chance to sell it. It's not enough quantity to keep a store alive. You don't get to restock. If you do get to restock, then the distros do it at a higher price than what the original distro price was, and it mirrors more of the market price than it does anything else. Like, I can get a Lost Origin booster box right now, and it is at market or above from distro. So I mean, and I can only buy one. So again, guys, it's not the way you think it is. Like, there's so many behind the scenes when it comes to stock, when it comes to how distro prices a restock and other things like that. You guys don't see that. You don't get to, or you don't have access to that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I can understand why you're mad up front. But also, with all that in mind, I could see some stores going out of business. They don't get to play the quantity game to stay alive. Like I said, they get the one shot, and then no restocks, and restocks go higher price, and blah, 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 blah. I've said it a handful of times. Sorry for repeating myself, but I feel like it's pretty important. I feel like it's pretty dang important. To drill that point home, because I don't think people realize it, and some of these stores are not actually bad people. So a lot of stores right now are posting their orders before knowing their allocations. I think that's completely wrong. Again, I think the $100 booster or ETB is wrong as well. A lot of stores did pre-orders without knowing their allocations for surging sparks. They had to cancel orders, which sucks, because then somebody's been waiting on that order and then they don't get anything. They did a pre-order fully believing that they're going to get it, and then they don't get anything because now the set's more expensive. It's not a MSRP, and the stock of it's hard to find. So I think that's one thing stores need to work on, is stop doing pre-orders before knowing their allocations. People are pre-ordering this set for the last 2 months, which is way too early. People are going to buy this stuff. This stuff is so hot right now. These sets are in such demand. Don't pre-order before the allocations. Like, you can literally wait till you get all of your allocation numbers. It'll still sell in a heartbeat. It'll sell so quick. I don't know why people are in such a rush to get this. I don't know why they're in such a rush to pre-order it, and I don't know why stores were in a rush to get it pre-ordered. Fully well knowing that this would be easy, but then some stores were canceling orders to get a free loan and then sell the product at a more expensive price, more akin to what market price would be. That's obviously wrong. Obviously very wrong. Don't do it, but people have been doing it and I hate it. And we already talked about, distros jacking up prices, stock availability, things like that. So I don't need to hash any more into that. And we already talked about, again, Dr. Applesauce saying, hey, you know what? It's not his problem when stores have to sell cheap. Again, support your local store. If they're keeping a price fair and it's a guaranteed stock and you're going to get it and you're not going to have to worry about your order getting canceled because they really don't, they're not overgoing on what their allocations are because they did it when they didn't know their allocations. And then also on top of that, they're not hopefully canceling your orders to then resell it at a higher price. Find a store you trust, talk to them. Most store owners are super easy, chill, and great to talk to. Just don't exploit your store, and don't pick a store that's going to exploit you. I think that's pretty straightforward. Very, very straightforward for sure. So to sum it all up, I think Dr. Applesauce has some good points. For sure. The ETB shouldn't be $100. But if you want to stop scalpers, if you don't want your stuff to be $100, don't buy it at $100. Don't. Be okay. And you know what? Nostalgianomics. I watch him a lot. He's great. He is great and wonderful, and gave some good advice recently. He said, be comfortable and learn how to say no, because it's okay to say no, and sometimes it's in your best interest to say no, and sometimes you're not always going to get what you want. So for one, if someone's selling it at $100 and you don't like it, don't buy it. Don't feel FOMO to buy it. There's going to be other opportunities and other sets in the future. Do you have to have this set? I bet you all want it, but you don't. I mean, if the prices is too crazy, if everybody stopped buying these $400 Pokemon Center ETBs, it wouldn't be happening. So learn how to say no. Stop buying this crazy expensive price. And that will even cut demand down a little bit to where pretty much stores are going to end up having more stock and more buy, because some of these scalpers are going to stop buying stuff if we just band together and stop paying crazy prices. So part of it's on the consumer. If you don't like those prices, stop it. Don't do it. Wait till it's more available. Or if you guys really did band together, you could make it to where it's not this expensive, for sure. But it takes a group effort, and who knows where that will go. So, with that, just learn how to say no. It's okay to say no. It's okay to miss out on something. There's more opportunities in the future. And there's probably a lot of people that are so maxed out on lines of credit that they're going to realize they spent too much. They're going to have to sell it cheap on the street. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some people that have way overextended, and they're going to be like, well, not doing that again. I'm out of the hobby. I am out of the hobby. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to sell my stuff at MSRP, or I'm going to pull a Walmart and GameStop, do it slightly above MSRP, not by much, probably just a few bucks. But either right at MSRP or slightly above, because for me, it's bigger for me and more important for me to build a good relationship with you guys, my customers. It's more important for me to grow my social media, and I have a full-time career, so I do have an opportunity to not worry about playing the volume game if I am not able to. I'm okay with just, selling whatever I do get and then waiting for the next thing and slowly growing from that. I'm fine with the slow growth. I know I can't be the biggest store overnight. I know I can't even go full time probably in the next 2-3 years, because it's going to take time to build all this up and build up my relationships with distro. And we're going to make a video about distro too, what it's like to actually get a distro, especially when you first get a distro, especially when you're a nobody like me, because it does take time. And there's a lot more to it than what people realize, and not enough online stores talk about it. It takes time to grow it. And if you're a new store starting into these sets, I am sorry. That is going to be hard. That is going to be very, very hard. But I think stores and consumers be understanding. Stop spending so much on something is not that price. Part of it is your guys' fault for buying it at that price. Don't do it. Just stop. Be okay with saying no. Do you really think you need to have this ETB at $400 that probably doesn't even have the hits in it that you want, and probably has a jacked up promo too? Guys, learn to say no. It's okay. It is okay. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that because who in their right minds are doing this? It's not a good idea. So don't. Just stop. You guys are awesome though. Love you all. Thank you for watching. This was a very long-winded thing. This ended up going a lot longer than I thought. We ended up covering a lot of good stuff, and I love the discussion. Dr. Applesauce, if you ever want to talk and you ever want to review some of this, or maybe talk and get some different insights, and I would love to get some insights too. I love learning, and I could be wrong about different viewpoints and other things like that, and it's nice to just have a good civil conversation, and I might learn something, you might learn something. Who knows? Either way, I love it. And I love your channel. And I appreciate your videos because you are trying to protect consumers, and I love it. I'm just a little bit more direct, and I don't have the fun answer, because my non-fun answer is stop buying it at these prices. If everybody stopped, they would not be at these prices. So if you ever want to collaborate, let me know. I would love it. But you probably won't even hear or see this video, and that's okay. I am okay with that. But I hope you guys all have a good, awesome night. I hope you guys have a good holiday. It's Christmas time. Enjoy time with your family. Pokemon is not the center point of this season. Your family is. Enjoy some family time. I'm going to. I need some family time. Work has been so nuts lately. Maybe we can make a video about what I do. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. And I do need to make a video about distro. I think we have to. It's about time. It's about time. But anyways, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy your families. I hope you all have a good night. Don't do anything crazy.